Hey, what's up everybody? Today we're going to take a look at a new game by Plaid Hat Games that involves space and ships and samurais, and that's it. Starship Samurai by Plaid Hat Games. This is a really cool area control game with a little bit of combat and some set collection. So I'm going to go down to the table, show you all the components and the overview of how it's played, and give you a few of my thoughts on the game. Alright, so let's go check out Starship Samurai. Okay, so this is the front cover of Starship Samurai. Really freaking awesome cover. So I've looked at this a couple of times up at Cape Fear Games here in Wilmington, North Carolina. It was on their new game shelf probably for 2 weeks until I finally said, I've got to try this. So you've got a mech here overlooking the battle between two other mechs and a bunch of smaller ships, and then you've got two large carriers coming in here. It's really how the game feels when you're playing it. It's really cool. Oh, let me show you the back of the box on the side. So there's a horizontal display option, vertical display option. Really cool. So this is 14 and up, 2 to 4 players, 60 to 90 minutes. My 8-year-old son actually played it, half decently. There's a lot to think about, so I get the 14 and up. But here's how a 4-player game looks all set up. These really cool samurai mechs and the money tokens and everything. But you'll see that here in just a moment. So this kind of gave me a Blood Rage vibe, actually. And I definitely did not expect that. So this is the score tracker and allegiance trees. So you see the score all the way around there. There's the symbol for scoring. Here's the 4 different tribes or groups, because it's 2 to 4 players, so there you go. And then based on where your allegiance token, clan token is on this these different branches, determines how many victory points or money you get at the end of each round. So you're trying to get these tokens, at decent levels here while keeping other people from getting theirs too high, because this really is your main way of scoring points. This in battle. So that's pretty cool. I like that board. Nothing on the back though. No big deal. And then you've got these, all the mech. Come on now, there we go. All the mech miniatures are pretty well detailed. Really cool. You can see it there in my hand. They're pretty large. So you got 8 of these, and they all match the artwork that is on the mech cards. So each one of these 8 mechs has a card. This arm actually fell off. I think my son was just messing with it too much, so I super glued it back on there. It's been fine ever since. This one's really cool looking. And they all have different abilities. Powerful, pretty powerful game-changing abilities. And they add, of course, more power to battles than others. So, you've got those 8 mechs. You've got the scoring thing here. And then you've got 4 locations depending on the number of players in the game. So there'll be 1 location per player in the game. Just, a heads up, when I give you my thoughts here at the end, I've only played this 2-player, but it seems like it would scale very well. I bet you it would be a better game at 3 or 4 players. But it's not too bad at 2. I really enjoyed it. So each player, these will be the locations, and they'll go next to this score track board. Each player has their own dashboard here with your list of options. So you can move an allegiance token over here on these trees here, like I was explaining. You can draw cards. There's a 5-card hand limit. You can move units, and you can gain wealth, which is just money. Here's the money tokens. And here's the allegiance tokens. These will be over here on this thing, starting at the bottom and go all the way across there. So when you move them around, you can move it up your tree, or let's just say this was an opponent's tree, you can move it down their tree. So if this was right here and it said I could move it 6, I could actually go 1, 2, 3 back to the bottom, 4, 5, 6 up into mine. So you can manipulate these things a lot. And moving it 6 is not common. There's 2 cards in the deck that lets you move it 6. But each player will have tokens. I'm just trying to find 4. They're not going to be the same color, but each player will have 4 tokens of their color for numbers 1, 2, 3, and 4. And as your turn comes up, you'll choose one of these numbers and place it on what you want to do. So if I placed it here, X would be 4. So I get to move 4 units from my supply here to either of the 2 locations, as long as there's space. And each space has 7 spots where either a ship or a mech can be placed. And your units, you'll start with 8 of these small fighter ships. Everybody will have 8. And 1 of these carriers. And the cool thing about the carriers is whenever you move them from any one place to another place, they can take 2 of these small ships with them to the new location as long as there's space. And that includes, your supply in your dashboard. If you had 2 here and you move the carrier from here to a new location, you could take 2 ships with him, or from one location to another location. So it's really cool. Another thing is, once this is covered up, that does not mean that you can't do this again. I could, on a future turn, place the 2 here and also move 2 more ships. So it's really cool. And let me just go over these other options real quick. So moving units, real quick, is moving from your supply to any location where there's a space available, or from any location to another location that has available space. And moving on, I already talked about moving allegiance. That's moving the tokens over there. Draw cards. It's obvious you draw cards, but the moment you have more than 5, you have to discard down to 5. Gain wealth is just simply gain that many wealth. Another thing that's really cool is you can spend wealth to increase the number. So if I played move the allegiance token 4 spaces, 1 clan marker 4 spaces, I have $3. I can spend those 3 wealth and make it 7. So it becomes a lot more powerful shift of the allegiance token. So obviously the only place that doesn't make sense to do is wealth, because you'd be spending 1 wealth to get an additional wealth. So yeah, so there's the 4 options you have in your options to modify those, and you can't take the same action more than once. Next, I'm going to show you these cards that we start with in a couple locations. So you're going to have a bunch of these locations, and they'll have pips in the bottom right. If you're playing, it'll tell you in the setup, but if you're playing certain numbers, if you're playing with 3 players, you'll take all the ones with 3 pips out. If you're playing with 2 players, you'll take all the ones with 2 pips out. And then there's a couple of different things you do if you're playing with 3 or 4 players. But nevertheless, each location will have a number of symbols in the top right corner, 1, 2, 3, or 4, and the benefits here. So these will be on these locations, and at the beginning of your turn, at the beginning of each player's turn, and remember, they'll each get 4 because they all have 4 different numbers to place here. At the beginning of each of those turns, you look at see which locations you have the most power. And the way power is determined is by what is there. So this mech is worth 3 power, and those ships are worth 2 and 1. I'm going to show you here in a second how we know that. So where is he? This guy right here. Oh, this guy has a power of 6. So you look at this. This is the symbol for power. So he has 6 power. So right now I have 6, 7, 8, 9 power at that location. And I have the most, so I would gain whatever's printed here. In this case, it's draw an action card, which are these, and move this token up or down 1, depending on whose branch it's in. So you'll see here on the carriers, there's a little 2 there, and on the fighters, there's a 1. So you can tell how much power you have at the location. So for each location you have the most power, you'll gain whatever is printed there on the card. Also, you have this free action. Your fighters have a free action. Oh, come on. There we go. So as a free order, they're calling action orders, because on each turn you place one of your numbered tokens on one of these action choices, and you can play one action card. One order action card. There's order and battle cards, I'll show you. But this is free at any time during any of your turns. You can attach a wealth token to one of your small fighter ships, and for each token that's attached to that fighter ship, it increases its power by 1. So everybody will have these 2 abilities. They'll be attached to their dashboards down below, like that. Like that there, see? Ship unit card, ship unit card. And then whatever samurais you end up with will be down here. So that'll remind you of their power and their abilities. And each one will have the abilities described here on the bottom. Whenever you move this one, you must spend 1 wealth, but that's because he's so powerful. All the other ones are 2, 3, or 4 power. He's 6. So that's what you'll do at the beginning of your turn. Every turn is see which benefits you get from these things. Then you'll place your numbered order token on one of these options, and if you want to, you will play a order action card. This is an order action card. Here's its cost. In this case, it's 1 wealth. And then you do whatever it says. You can play one of these per turn. Here's a battle action card. Here's its cost. And you can only play those during battle. So this one would be 1 wealth. This one would be you sacrifice 2 ships from your supply. So that's the cost for that. You have to have ships here to, or I'm sorry, it can be from the supply or any location. So just sacrifice 2 ships that you control. And the last cost type is victory points. So you would move your victory point marker back 2 spaces to pay for this. So, finally, once everyone has placed all 4 of their order tokens, starting with the first player, whoever has this first player marker, we will resolve battle at all the locations. So, let's just say I had a power of 6 here and the opponent had a power of 8. I would look at my cards currently in hand, find a battle card that I'm able to pay the cost for, and place it face down. And then my opponent would do the same thing. He'd find one, or she would put it face down. Then starting with the first player, they will flip and resolve the battle card. So I get +3 power, which makes me win now. They would flip theirs. Let's just say this was a +5 power. And they figured out they don't have any ships that they can sacrifice in order to pay for it. So this just gets discarded and they lose the ability. I would win the battle, which would give me 5 victory points. Every time you win a battle, you get 5 victory points. And I would get whatever's printed on this card. So I get to move this token 2 spaces on the allegiance track. And I get to keep this card. So the reason that's important is at the end of the game, you're trying to have as many different types of these cards you have. Like I said, there's a 1, 2, 3, and a 4. If you have 2 different, it's something like 3 points. 3 different is 6. If you have all 4 different types, I think it's 9 extra points at the end of the game. So that's what I meant by there's a splash of set collection. And that's it. There's different tiebreakers at the end of the game. If anybody tied, score. But you're just going to go around placing your units, drawing cards, getting money, trying to have the most presence there. And then you'll play your battle cards, pay their costs. There's a lot going on in this game. I was very pleasantly surprised with the amount of thought and strategy that's involved. And if you ever played Blood Rage, it is a little Blood Rage-esque because you're putting your guys out, playing different cards that alter the battlefield. Like I said, all these Mechs Samurais have amazing, powerful abilities that allow you to destroy stuff and amp up the power of your ships. You can lock down certain locations, make people pay to do different things. It's just really cool. And I'm pretty sure there's going to be some expansions going on because right now these are the only ship unit cards. And the way some of these rules are printed, it's like, you know, there's got to be more. This can't be all there is to it. But I definitely recommend this one. The components are great. The gameplay's fun at 2-player. Like I said, I bet you it's going to be better at 3 or 4. And seems like it's got some good replayability. I can't wait to see what they come out with it in the future. Trying to think if there's anything that bothered me while we were playing. It's extremely balanced. I mean, this first player marker is going to, you know, get passed back and forth all around the table, so it's not like it's unbalanced there. Everybody has equal opportunity to purchase cards, draw cards. When you get the way that you end up with your samurais is it's a draft, basically. So the first player will look at all the samurais, choose one, pass it, and then the last player will pick one and then pick another one, pass it all the way backwards back around to the first player. So everybody has pretty equal opportunity to see what's available and get what they want. So yeah, Starship Samurai by Plaid Hat Games. Very cool. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, hit that like and subscribe button. Be sure to share this video. Check out kfeargames.com. This is where I picked that up. I think it was just below what it's available for on Amazon. And be sure to check us out on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. We do post there very often. And as always, thank you for watching and play all the games.